Welcome to the Daily Fantasy Basketball Podcast. I am Kyle McEwen. You can find me on Twitter at RotoKyleNBA. And I'm joined tonight, like every night, by Mark Roberts, who you can find on Twitter at Mark F. Roberts. If you can please rate and review the podcast on iTunes, Stitcher, or any other app that you may have, that would be great. Your TI-86 calculator rated on that. It does help a lot. We've climbed all the way up to number 13 in the iTunes sports ranking. So thank you very much to everybody. It's been awesome kind of getting that high, and it really is because of all the ratings and reviews. And I know we keep saying thank you for it, but I kind of feel like this is a team effort. We're jamming it down the throat of ESPN and Fox Sports 1 and, all the corporate stuff. And we're just saying like, hey, crappy production quality, that's what we all like. All right. So, Mark, it's the opening night. We just got 3 games on the schedule. We're recording this while the Pelicans versus Golden State game is going on. We saw what happened with the Pistons versus the Hawks and the Cleveland Cavaliers versus the Chicago Bulls. I guess, is there anything that really stood out to you that you feel like you need to talk about first?
Man, probably the thing that stood out to me most that would be relevant to standard leagues is Dennis Schroeder. We talked about him last night, and we said watch and see if he gets enough of the minutes at like backup point guard and 2 guard to become relevant in standard leagues. And for me, he did. I mean, look at that line. He played 25 minutes, which we kind of said, hey, if he goes over 24 minutes, you probably ought to think about picking him up. He went to 25 minutes, and you can just see how aggressive he is. He shot 14 times in that time span. He made 8 of them. He was shooting the 3, looked pretty good. So he had 20 points. He had 4 assists, 2 steals, 3 rebounds. I don't think he's going to get a ton of assists as like with Teague on the court. And he's not, I don't know. I just don't feel like he's a high assist guy generally, but he's going to do a lot of different things for you. Like he's going to kind of fill up the box score in other areas. So I really like Schroeder. I went and picked him up everywhere I could in any 12-team league or deeper. And I even looked at trying to add him in my 10-team leagues.
You make me want to stop the podcast and go pick him up because I didn't realize he had finished with 20 points, but I watched this whole game, and Schroeder was the best player from the Hawks. I mean, obviously, Paul Millsap looked good. Al Horford looked good. Those guys are amazing. And look, you got Al Horford hitting 1 3-pointer, Paul Millsap dropping 2. Some interesting things there. But with Schroeder, you're right. He looked more confident than pretty much everybody else on that court. He was getting super chippy playing against Steve Blake, just like throwing elbows at him and stuff while they're coming up the court. And that was a lot of fun to watch. So Schroeder's very intriguing. You wonder if he'll get enough minutes every single night. But with the way he looked tonight and with the fact that this Atlanta Hawks team, he came out and said about over the last few days that he wants to be a starter in the NBA by next season. So I look at this Hawks team, and Schroeder's one of those guys that you're kind of, if you're picking somebody who's, end of the league kind of fodder who could become a top 50 guy if he had a full-time starting role, Schroeder's one of those guys for me. So if they decide to trade Jeff Teague, he's somebody who, you're right, we might as well just add him now in certain size leagues.
Well, and the thing that is telling to me is look at Kent Bazemore's minutes. Look at Thabo Cephalosha's minutes. They both played like right around 20. Justin Holiday didn't get off the bench. Looks like Tim Hardaway didn't get off the bench. Is he hurt?
Tim Hardaway was actually inactive. He was in street clothes. That's how bad he is at basketball.
That's a heck of a way to spend a first-round pick. They traded a first-round pick for that guy. Anyway, Bazemore, Cephalosha, Holiday, and Hardaway got 40 total minutes. So, I think there's enough between the minutes that they limit Teague to and the shooting guards not getting very many minutes. I think there's enough of a role for Schroeder to be there. Like he's one of those guys that doesn't need 30 minutes a game to be fantasy relevant. So I'm picking him up. If he doesn't get, like if he has a bunch of, he played 20 minutes tonight, then he played 15 minutes, then he played 24 minutes, I'll probably drop him. but I just think the upside is high enough that I'm going to go ahead and add him and just see what happens.
The Hawks did this really quick substitution pattern where in the first quarter, just about 4 or 5 minutes in, they took Horford out and they took Bazemore out and brought in Splitter with Thabo Cephalosha. So they were able to get Horford some minutes in there playing next to Splitter, as well as having Paul Millsap play next to Splitter. But with DeMarre Carroll not being there, if they're not comfortable with their wing rotation, you're probably going to see more minutes out of Millsap at small forward.
Mm-hmm.
And do you think it's possible that maybe Millsap is the one player who kind of bucks the norm or the trend of the minutes there? It seems like there might be the potential for him to play a few more minutes than what Atlanta would maybe like him to play.
Yeah, I think that's definitely possible. Like, you definitely got me thinking there, like, who are they going to play on the wing if they don't play Millsap or Schroeder? Like, Korver can't play the whole game. And then what else do they have? Lamar Patterson played 18 minutes. Cephalosha played 19 minutes. Bazemore played 20 minutes. But none of those guys inspire much confidence. I wonder if they'll look for different solutions.
Bazemore struggled. He's out there hustling, getting his 7 rebounds, but he struggled. He had 4 turnovers, 3 personal fouls. It didn't look too good. And at the end of the game, they had a 2-point guard set out there with Schroeder and with Teague because they didn't want to play Bazemore.
Yeah, I wonder if that will keep happening. I mean, you're right. Schroeder, I struggled with this. Like, he was definitely the most aggressive player on the court, and I kept wanting to say, is he the best player on the Hawks right now? And I don't know what the right word for it is. It's kind of like the same thing when I saw Mirotic. They're just so confident and aggressive that you almost want to say, are they the best player on their team? And then you start to look around and say, yeah, probably not. But there's something definitely intriguing about those two. Those were the two that jumped off the screen to me tonight.
There are some nights, though, where Schroeder is the best player on that team. And there's other nights where it's Jeff Teague, Al Horford, Paul Millsap. So let's talk about what happened on the Detroit side of this game, though. We saw some big minutes out of some players. Marcus Morris played 37 minutes. Ersan Ilyasova, 34. Drummond, 37. Reggie Jackson, 32, just like we always think he's going to be, because that's just what Stan Van Gundy does with his point guards. It's 32 minutes or less. It's hilariously so consistent.
Yeah.
Kentavious Caldwell-Pope, 37 minutes. And then off the bench, Stanley was the first guy in off the bench to be in the first quarter. He ended up playing 24 minutes in this game. Yeah,
they ran a really shallow rotation, if you think about it. I don't think they'll be able to get away with that most nights, but at least I think that looks shallow. You got 3 guys over 30 at 37 minutes a night, or 37 minutes tonight, and then Ersan was at 34, and Reggie Jackson, like you said, is 32.
I don't think a lot of these guys are playing this many minutes every night. What I think happened is that the starting lineup was playing so well against the Hawks that when they brought in the bench and the bench was getting eaten alive, there was a 12-0 run at one point from Atlanta eating up the Pistons. I think that made them shorten the rotation and go back to the starters for more minutes, because before the game, SVG was talking about using a 10 or 11-man rotation.
That's really interesting. And they were fresh tonight. Like, tonight's the freshest they're going to be all season.
Yep.
So does this change your perspective? I mean, we talked about Morris and Ilyasova last night. Does this change your perspective on those two? Because, from a fantasy standpoint, they had a pretty good night, both of them.
Yeah, Ilyasova, he's going to have some really good nights. He's going to have some bad nights. I think some nights, out of these 3 guys, Marcus Morris, Ersan, and then Stanley Johnson, one of them's going to play 24 minutes one night. The other one's going to play 24 minutes the other night, and so on and so forth, depending on whose shot is falling, and so on. Because Marcus Morris was just 6 of 19 from the floor. Did he finish with a great line? 18 points, 10 rebounds, 4 assists. He finished with a hell of a great line. But he also had 5 offensive rebounds. That's not going to happen every game. And he shot 6 of 19. If he continues
the Hawks
to shoot,
really struggled to rebound tonight. Like, just watching that game, and anecdotally, like, there were so many possessions where the Pistons took a shot, maybe an ill-advised shot, and Drummond just grabbed it and threw it back out, like reset the clock. And if you look at that, like, the Pistons had 60 rebounds, 59 rebounds, and the Hawks had 40. So there were, I think the Pistons will be a good rebounding team because Drummond is so good at rebounds, but I don't think that the discrepancy will be 20 rebounds per game. So maybe Morris loses some in that fashion. Like he doesn't. I don't think he gets 10 a game. I guess is what I'm trying to get at.
Well, I mean, one of the reasons why the Pistons get so many rebounds too is because they miss so many damn shots. So there's all these. They got 23 offensive rebounds compared to Atlanta's 7. So like that's almost the whole discrepancy. And the Pistons only shot 39% from the floor. The Pistons were great because of their 3-point shooting, which they shot 41% from the field on. So, what do you think though? Andre Drummond, 18 points, 19 rebounds, 8 offensive rebounds, 2 blocks, 3 assists, 1 steal in 37 minutes, with 6 of 10 from the line. Man, if he can go 6 of 10 from the line, he's
that's the most surprising line. That's the most surprising part of his whole line. That he made more free throws than he missed.
True that. Yeah, his free throw percentage was higher than his field goal percentage.
No, I mean, we know Drummond can do this. This is why we were saying take him in the second or, maybe the second, maybe the third round. And I think a lot of pre-draft rankings had him way, way lower.
What about Kentavious Caldwell-Pope? 7 of 14 from the field, 4 of 7 from three-point land. There's one shot as well that Kentavious launched up that was, I mean, he was in the next zip code. It was ridiculous. So he looked intriguing. He looked very solid.
I should know this, and I guess I don't. Is he generally owned? Like if I go look in my standard 12-team league, am I likely to find him on my waiver wire or not? Or is it just kind of a?
I think he's generally owned. I think in a lot of the expert leagues, he was picked up. He was owned that I'm in. There was one league when I was going through earlier today where he was not owned. And I even dropped him in one league today. That didn't feel good.
Would you rather have him or would you rather pick, like if you wanted to pick up one guy off of this game, would you pick up Schroeder? I think it's probably him or Schroeder. If they're both available, would you pick up KCP?
I think KCP's minutes are just going to be more consistent. So you'd get more consistent 3-pointers, more consistent steals, but Schroeder is going to put up across the board stats. And Schroeder might be becoming the Reggie Jackson of last year, where one way or another, at the halfway point, he's either going to get traded to a team that's going to give him a full-time job, or the Hawks are just going to have to trade Jeff Teague away to get something else.
Or they just go with the 2-point guard lineup, like the Suns have done. Like that's their best team is when Teague and Schroeder out there. And I know they can't guard everybody like that. It looked okay to me tonight. If the alternative is Kent Bazemore.
I think you take the pluses you get on offense and you give up what you give up on defense is what you do with them. I'm with you. You go with that 2-point guard lineup. I don't know that they're willing to do that though. If I was going to say an intriguing trade idea that might be fun, send Jeff Teague to the Utah Jazz for Rodney Hood.
Interesting. Yeah, I don't know who says no to that. Probably the Hawks would want more, right? But
I would think the Jazz might be afraid to give up Rodney Hood. So maybe you give up Alec Burks and Trey Burke or something like that.
I like the way you're thinking.
Yeah. Anyways. All
right, let's talk about the other game.
Heck yeah. Cleveland versus Chicago. The Chicago Bulls ended up pulling it out 97-95. I guess let's start with the Cleveland Cavaliers. Kevin Love scored 18 points, 8 rebounds, 4 assists, 2 blocks, was just 6 of 17 from the field, 3 of 7 from 3-point.
Through 47 minutes, he had 12 points, I think, or maybe it was 9. I can't remember, but he hit 2 or 3 3-pointers in the last minute to bring him close, which is great. But this line could have looked, he could have been 4 of 15 for 12 points pretty easily.
LeBron James had 25 points, 10 rebounds, 5 assists, 1 steal, was 0 of 3 from the free throw line, which is a little bit annoying and weird, but not completely out of the norm. He's not the greatest free throw shooter in the world. It's one of the things that brings down his fantasy value away from that number 1 overall ranking.
Well, and Tristan Thompson, their $60 million man this season, had 2 points.
Isn't it $85 million?
Well, so his whole contract was 85, but they are paying. So the amount of salary that they're paying, including luxury tax, is $60 million for this season because they signed Tristan Thompson.
I just crapped my pants inside my head. Like,
I know that
Wow.
you can't attribute that all to Tristan Thompson. Like everybody's on the roster is responsible for that, but it literally, like, if they didn't sign Tristan Thompson, they would be paying $60 million less in salary this season.
Brain sharded. Man, that is
And he
crazy.
had 2 points.
So let's talk about that front court rotation. Timothy Mozgov had played 21 minutes as a starting center. Kevin Love in there at 35 at power forward. LeBron still played 36 minutes, so it doesn't look like they're going to be limiting his minutes too much. J.R. Smith played 30 minutes as a starting shooting guard. That's not a front court player. I don't know why I went there. Tristan Thompson, 25 off the bench. And then Anderson Varejao, 12. Nothing for Sasha Kaun. Yeah, nothing too surprising, but unfortunately, you're not getting any standard league fantasy value out of any of those front court players other than Kevin Love.
Yep. And that's what that's not a surprise.
No, it's not. It's just disappointing. Mo Williams, 19 points.
Mozgov, I guess. He's the one guy that is kind of a borderline because Thompson's not going to get there even if he plays 30 minutes a game.
Right. If Mozgov got 28 a game, though, he would be darn near double-double with 2 blocks.
Yeah.
So
I just don't think he's ever going to get there. He's got too long of a track record of being a 25-minute a night starter that even if he plays 30 minutes tomorrow night, like I just don't really care because these 21-minute nights are going to come back too. I don't see him consistently getting into that 28 to 30-minute range that he would need to be in.
Yep. Mo Williams played 37 minutes as the starting point guard. He's going to be getting big minutes as long as Kyrie Irving's out, as long as Iman Shumpert's out. So continue to ride out Mo Williams. In the meantime, you can, of course, use him in your daily games lineups. I think he was just about 5,800 or 6,000 on the daily game sites today. So consider that. On the Chicago side of things, Nikola Mirotic came out firing in the first quarter, had 11 points in 8 minutes in the first quarter. Then
he wants the ball every single time.
Give it to him.
Yeah, no kidding. He just, like, if he doesn't have the ball in his hands, he's got his arm like waving in the air as hard as he can go. And it's awesome. Like a total compliment, but especially for fantasy purposes, he's super aggressive out there, which is great.
It's awesome. And then that's the fun thing. The fun thing to talk about with the Bulls. I'm stuttering because I know we're going to have to talk about Pau Gasol, and that was not a fun night. Well, in most respects. But Mirotic played just 25 minutes with 6 of 11 from the floor, 3 of 4 from three-point.
Don't get fooled by that 25 minutes. He was in foul trouble, which I guess could be a concern, but he wasn't playing 25 minutes by design.
Correcto mundo. He got into foul trouble in the second quarter and then got another quick foul later in the game that just ended up taking him out. So he did damage in 25 minutes. 19 points, 9 rebounds, 2 offensive rebounds, 1 assist, 1 steal. Did have 4 turnovers, which sucks, but the 3 3-pointers, 19 and 9, like, okay, cool, we're good.
Yeah, it makes me feel sort of relieved for everybody that we told to take him like in the 4th and 5th rounds. Like, look at what you got. I'll go this far, Kyle. I would, if I had Jimmy Butler, which I don't anywhere, and somebody offered me Mirotic for him, I would take the trade.
Whoa, really?
Yeah.
I don't know, man. Jimmy Butler still played 37 minutes.
Yep. Tell me which line would you rather have? I know that it's a 1-game sample, but which player would you rather have tonight?
But you might get 2 steals every game. You're probably going to get close to 2 steals out of Jimmy Butler.
But I think you're getting a steal and a block out of Mirotic. I think you're getting 15 to 19 points, which is the same as you're going to get out of Butler. I think you're getting more rebounds. I think Butler's going to be held back by a couple of things. Look at the amount of shots he took versus the amount of shots that Rose took.
But he's also trying to facilitate a little bit more, so we might see him get up to 3 or 4 assists a game.
Sure. No, it's true. Look, I don't think it's a landslide, and I am.
It's totally reasonable based on where we were talking, where these guys fell into the rankings, especially in like the head-to-head rankings. Both these guys were, around what? I know we had Mirotic at like 27 in the head-to-head.
We might have had him higher than Butler, but I think they were close. Yeah, I don't hate Jimmy Butler, but I just love Mirotic, and I think he's gonna. I think this is gonna be a normal night for him.
And Derrick Rose is still out there chucking, so you hate him in rotisserie leagues because he used 8 of 22 from the floor tonight. but he still had 18 points and 5 assists. Honestly, this might be what Derrick Rose is like 18 points on terrible percentages shooter again. That just might be what he is now.
Well, I mean, when at his height, he was a 23-point scorer on terrible percentages. You know what I mean? Like when he won the MVP, what did he shoot? 42% or something?
Hey, dude, I'm like his least big fan, so I probably shouldn't go down that hole. Looking at that front court rotation, though, you got Pau Gasol getting 32 minutes, Nikola Mirotic getting 25. Again, that's a bit deceptive because Mirotic was in foul trouble. Taj Gibson got 22 and fouled out. And then Joakim Noah played 17 minutes. So we didn't even see Bobby.
Were you surprised to see that Gibson got more minutes than Noah? That kind of surprised me quite a bit.
Yes, it surprised me. Yeah, I mean, it does, but then again, I guess I'm kind of just open-minded to the whole of like, I don't know what the hell is going to happen with this Hoiberg team. You know, we have a good idea, but when
Gibson was the first guy off the bench. Like, I don't think it was some weird situation where Gibson was just left out there. Like, I think he came off the bench both times as the first big reserve. And I saw them playing towards the end of the game in crunch time. They had Gibson and Mirotic up there.
Noah didn't take a single shot.
Yeah. You still kind of like his line in 17 minutes. He had 9 rebounds and 4 assists and a steal.
I know. So I'm trying not to like him, but you appreciate what he's doing in limited action. It's fun.
Yeah.
So Taj Gibson, 10 rebounds, 3 blocks off the bench. That's not real. He had a good night. Pau Gasol, we didn't really talk about this. He was 1 of 7 from the field. He had no free throw attempts. He had just 2 rebounds, 1 steal, 2 points, but he had 6 blocks. So, I mean, honestly, if somebody's going to put up 6 blocks for you, it doesn't matter what else they get, even if it is, you know, an empty taco. So.
I'm not worried about Pau Gasol. I think the most reassuring thing is he played the minutes that we expected him to play. I think he'll get the stats that we expect him to get. So I don't think his value changes at all. If somebody's panicking about Pau Gasol and wants to move him, I'd take him.
Buy low on Pau Gasol. Wow.
Sure.
Let's talk stocks. All right. So now we got the New Orleans not Hornets, Pelicans, and the Golden State Warriors. They're playing right now, so not much to say there. If you're looking at tomorrow's games, everybody plays except for Golden State and except for Atlanta. So big slate, 14 games on Wednesday night. You got Washington at Orlando, Philadelphia at Boston, Chicago at Brooklyn, Utah at Detroit. Jarrett Jack for that Brooklyn game. Jarrett Jack's dealing with his injury. He looks doubtful for Wednesday's game against Chicago, which means Shane Larkin is going to start. Didn't I say that like a month ago on the podcast? Shane Larkin is going to start on opening night.
What are they going to do for a backup? Like, are they just going to pass? We'll just play 4 guys when Shane Larkin comes out. They don't have a backup point guard, do they?
Oh, they got Donald Sloan still, dude. Duh.
That's a good point. I forgot.
From the Washington at Orlando game, that one's going to be interesting because you're going to want to see exactly who starts at power forward for the Wizards. Maybe it's Chris Humphries. If Chris Humphries starts, you're still going to want to see how many minutes Jared Dudley plays. He's not supposed to have any restrictions. From the Orlando side of things, who are they going to start? It sounds Alfred Payton and a couple of the other injured guys that they had. Tobias Harris, who's I believe dealing with an illness. They both return to practice on Tuesday. They're expected to be ready to play for Wednesday's game. Aaron Gordon, who was dealing with a bruise on, I believe, his left foot, he's supposed to be good to go. I want to know if they're going to start Aaron Gordon next to Tobias Harris or if we're going to see them start someone like Evan Fournier. And I also want to see how many minutes Mario Hezonja ends up playing.
Yeah, I'm really interested in that because he's a guy he's one of the rookies that I like a lot, but we just haven't figured out how to get enough minutes in our projections realistically for him to be ranked anywhere in standard leagues. But I'm like crossing my fingers that changes because I want him to be fantasy relevant.
From that Philadelphia 76ers and Boston game, Nick Stauskas was able to return to practice on Tuesday, but Coach Brett Brown said that it's still up in the air whether or not Stauskas is going to be able to play. We're still looking at Isaiah Cannon and Jakar Sampson and Hollis Thompson projected to start that game with the front court of course, Nerlens Noel and Jaleel Okafor. From the Boston side of things, we're still looking at that Avery Bradley, Marcus Smart. And Avery Bradley came out and said that Marcus Smart's going to tear up the league this year. So that's pretty awesome. Jay Crowder at small forward, you're going to keep an eye on that. And then David Lee and Tyler Zeller, we think, are starting in the front court. But the problem with these Celtics is how many minutes is everybody going to get from game to game? Because even if you're high on Marcus Smart, even if you're high on Avery Bradley or Evan Turner, who's now coming off the bench, and which is a scary proposition because now he's probably not going to be as valuable as he was last season.
Not if he's on the court with Isaiah Thomas primarily, that could really hurt his value, I think.
See, it took me so many players just to get to saying Isaiah Thomas, who is going to get over 20 minutes a game.
Yeah,
because
probably their best player fantasy-wise.
Yeah. Utah at Detroit. Detroit's on the second game of a back-to-back. That's going to be interesting to see who actually starts for Utah. The Jazz came out and said today that they weren't certain who was going to be in the starting lineup. The coaches were going to have a meeting tonight to talk about it. So, in the last preseason game, it was rumored that was going to be indicative of what the starting lineup would be on opening night for the Jazz. And that would be Howell Neto at point guard and Rodney Hood at shooting guard. What we know that you're going to have Gordon Hayward, Derek Favors, and Rudy Gobert in there, but it's still a question of who's going to be starting in that backcourt together.
Kyle, I'm excited to see Drummond and Gobert going against each other.
Oh my God,
that should be fun.
Drummond, man, as much as I love that cat, there are times where he's just lazy and he just doesn't seem to care. And it is infuriating. They should record me watching Pistons games because I'm so crazy, the way I scream about stuff. I'm pretty sure my dog's had 4 or 5 seizures because I've scared the bejesus out of them. I don't know. They should use me for bringing people back to life. I really do think there's some kind of supernatural effect of me cheering for the Pistons. I'm going to stop rambling, but I was scaring myself tonight. I'm not going to lie. I just enjoyed it so much.
That's a nice win. That's a great. That was your number 1 seed in the conference last season.
So many big shots. Stanley Johnson's first bucket in the NBA was a 3-pointer from the corner. Dude's just sagging off of him, daring him to shoot. He just looked him in the eye and said, "Suck on it."
Did you have to go take a shower after he made that shot?
Oh no, I'm bathing in this, man. I'm gonna bathe in it for a day and a half, just soaking the juices of a Detroit basketball win.
I definitely don't want to bring you down, and we've already talked about Detroit, so we don't need to spend much more time. Stanley Johnson did not have a performance tonight that I would be happy with if I owned him in a 12-team league or shallower. Do you still have are you not concerned based on tonight's results?
Not from watching the game. In the first quarter, he had, hey, it's my first NBA basketball game jitters, where you saw him kind of forcing his shot a little bit. There was a shot in either the second quarter or the third where Drummond came out to set a pick. He split the 2 defenders, went past Drummond. Somebody else came up and tried to guard him. He jumped so high, kissed it off the glass. You would have swore he got fouled too. The announcers were dumbfounded. They're like, how, that's his first NBA game and he's doing stuff like that? How do you do that? So, and I get it. They're Homer announcers. I was watching the Detroit feed, but I mean, I don't know. You got some. Did you watch a lot of the game? Were you able to see much of him?
Yeah, I did.
Okay.
No, I think he looks interesting, but I guess all I'm saying is that didn't. I think he looks like an NBA player. I think sometimes you can see pretty clearly this rookie doesn't look like he belongs on the court, or he does.
Yeah.
I think Stanley Johnson belongs. I think it's fine that they're going to play him. He's clearly going to be the 6th man unless he moves into the rotation. But at the same time, it didn't translate to fantasy goodness tonight.
They put him on the court for the final 4 minutes with the game still somewhat in question. There's only an 8-point lead at that point.
Yeah, no, like I said, I think he fits. I'm just worried that he's not necessarily going to be prolific enough in that time to warrant being on fantasy teams.
And I don't think that. I think 24 minutes is that's the bottom for him. That's the absolute bottom for him on a given night, because Ursan was hitting his shots tonight. For the most part, he wasn't completely stupid with the ball, made a couple of good passes. And Marcus Morris was just playing really hard. So he earned his minutes out there. Contavious was hitting his shots. There's 3 players in there that if one of those guys is not playing well, you're going to get bigger minutes from Johnson. Also, playing in that second unit, the second unit really struggled in the first half because they hadn't really played together except for one game in the preseason with Steve Blake running the show. And Steve Blake's I was getting pissed because he wasn't passing the ball to Stanley enough, but he did a good job once he kind of settled in there in the second half. Anyways, let's move on. Charlotte Hornets versus Miami. Really what you're looking out for here is who's going to start at power forward for Charlotte, although we don't really want to deal with that from a fantasy perspective. Essentially, it's going to be a timeshare. And then does PJ Hairston actually start at shooting guard, and is he good enough?
Yeah. And we think 95% unlikely, 5% likely, I would say.
From Miami, guys, you're looking at how many minutes does Gerald Green play off the bench? How many minutes does Justice Winslow play off the bench?
Because how many minutes does Hassan Whiteside play? I think that's the most interesting question from a fantasy perspective.
Right, and can he stay on the court? Can he keep his composure? Like, that's something you're going to watch every single night. Because we don't want him to turn into the next Larry Sanders again. Indiana Pacers versus Toronto Raptors. Who's going to start at power forward? That's not settled yet. Is Patrick Patterson, even if he starts, Louis Scola, even if he starts, I'm not too interested. Honestly, I bet you they end up playing Bismack Biyombo maybe more minutes than anybody else in that front court, even though he's coming off the bench, because Dwayne Casey loves those defense-only guys like Amir Johnson.
Anthony Bennett, is there any chance?
You hope and pray. I don't want to be the one to be pushing that. Like, I'm all on board with Anthony Bennett. I hope he's the one to take that job over. What frustrates me is I
think we're in the same boat. I think it's a hope at this point, but not something we'd expect enough that you would pick him up.
Right. We all have to wait until Dwayne Casey gets fired. So look, Kyle Lowry will trip over a cheeseburger or something because the irony will be just thick as ketchup. And then I'm sorry, that was really dumb. But something will happen. The Raptors are going to struggle. They're not good.
I actually think they're primed for a fire sale if things don't go so well. Because I don't think with the new general manager regime, I don't think DeRozan necessarily fits in with what they're looking for, and he's in the last year of his contract. So I could see them like trading DeRozan, potentially trading Lowry because he's on a favorable contract now and he's playing well, and just sort of like hitting the reset button. If like the first 20 games, if they're 8-12 or something.
You trade DeRozan to the New York Knicks for Kristaps Porzingis. Problem solved.
Oh, no.
That was a joke, obviously. That would never happen, ever.
Well,
it wouldn't. All right.
It should never happen.
From the
Knicks have done stupider things in the last 2 years.
True. Indiana Pacers, how many minutes is Jan Mahinmi going to play as the starting center there? Is Miles Turner going to be ready to play? He was dealing with, I believe, a sprained ankle. This is now three minor injuries for Miles Turner since he was drafted. So that's something to maybe take into consideration. Hopefully it's just weird, quirky things. But with a guy who is constantly jumping out of the gym to try to block shots, there is the risk of him falling or landing on somebody's foot and whatnot. Denver versus Houston. What are you looking at there, Mark? Anything that stands out? I know I'm looking at Moutier. We did get the starting lineup, the projected starting lineup released. Joffrey Laverne at center. And
yeah, I wanted to talk to you about that. Is that interesting? Like,
it's super interesting.
Yeah. So
he looked
interesting.
Good. He looked good in the preseason.
I'm gonna throw him in my daily league, my daily games, or interesting in I would actually think about picking this guy up.
I added him in our dynasty league with the salaries and stuff on Fantrax. I added him in that league like a month ago. After I watched his first or second preseason game, I said, "Holy cow, this cat looks legit." He doesn't have a big, thick body, but he's kind of got like the Taj Gibson body, but he's probably a little bit taller. And same athleticism and probably a little bit better of a shooter. Maybe that's what you're waiting to see is can Joffrey Laverne, can he shoot the ball well enough to be good? Because right now, all you're counting on him for is decent rebounding if he gets enough minutes and points. And then you're hoping he can contribute something somewhere else, which the most likely spot is probably 3-pointers.
You know who else is starting for Denver is our buddy Gary Harris.
I've
fun to see.
I've got him in a lot of leagues.
I do too. I have high hopes for him. I think he can contribute a lot in the threes and steals categories, and it'll be interesting to see if he can add anything else beyond that.
So who else we got there? No, can
I give you my, like, if I end up playing daily tomorrow, I think there's a very, very, very good chance that I would put Clint Capella in my lineup.
Oh yeah, Dwight Howard is not playing, is he?
He's suspended. Capella has looked good in the limited minutes he's had in the regular season, in the playoffs, and in the preseason. I know I don't care as much about the preseason, but I think if he gets 25 minutes, there's a good chance he puts up a double-double. So I'd throw him in a lot of daily leagues.
And I haven't looked at it yet, but I would bet he's one of the lower salaried players there as well.
I would be surprised if they don't have him as like on DraftKings as a minimum salary guy.
Now, in general, though, I'm staying away from a lot of the Denver players. I would likely play Moutier, and I would play, but even Moutier, do you want to play a rookie on his opening night, on his first night? It's one thing with Stanley Johnson. There was slim pickings for small forwards on Tuesday night, but for Wednesday, you got all manner of teams playing, so you can pick a lot of different guys. So
yeah, I'm probably staying away from Moutier until I see what he is, but that's the reason to watch the game.
Yep.
If you're wanting to have a reason to watch Denver and Houston, besides, I mean, Houston should be a lot of fun this season. But
well,
I'm interested to see what Moutier gives you.
I would consider using Ty Lawson because you got the whole, hey, you guys kicked me off the team because I was an alcoholic thing going on, and he's probably going to want to, rage against them. So, yeah. So, and even Mike Malone even said something in the media today. He was like, yeah, Ty Lawson's got a little added incentive for our game. So, which is cool. Coaches don't always acknowledge that, or hardly ever. Cleveland at Memphis. So Cleveland's playing on the second day of a back-to-back. I would maybe just double check that LeBron James is going to be okay in case maybe some back spasm thing comes up, or who knows, maybe they're looking for some really early rest for him by not having him playing a back-to-back. That won't happen, I don't think. That's the one thing that LeBron said he doesn't want to happen too much is missing games, but we'll see. Anything else? We saw Cleveland play tonight, and it kind of went chalk to what we thought it would be. Yeah. Is there anything new that you would look at tomorrow night, or is it kind of like, nope, they are what they are?
Yep.
And then Memphis, I believe the plan is for them to start Tony Allen and Courtney Lee on the wing, so they are who they are. So that's nice. All right, New York and Milwaukee. This will be an interesting one to watch. Giannis Antetokounmpo is not playing because he's out due to suspension. New York is starting Kristaps Porzingis at power forward. The big question there is, how many minutes does he play? So that'll be something to keep an eye on.
I'm tuning into that game for sure.
Oh, absolutely. On the side of Milwaukee, it's what do we get out of Michael Carter-Williams? What do we get out of Greg Monroe? Jabari Parker's not going to be ready, but some really great news about Jabari Parker came out today. Jason Kidd said that the team is hoping to get Jabari Parker back on the court sometime in early November, so sometime in the next few weeks, potentially. And if that happens, the hope is that he will start playing about 10 to 15 minutes per game and starting to work his way up. If nothing else, we should be happy that he's going to start getting into games and getting some action. But it is pretty it's annoying that he's going to only be playing 10 to 15 minutes, not from just from the perspective of fantasy. Obviously, wishing him the best recovery and all that baloney.
Yep.
Anybody else from Milwaukee that you're keeping an eye out for, or that you're considering maybe using because they don't have Giannis and they don't have Jabari?
Yeah, more just generally, I'm interested. We've seen Jason Kidd run a really deep rotation last year. Like at the beginning of the season, it was 11, 12 deep. So I'm interested to see how he approaches it. And like you're saying, he's missing a few guys, so we may not have a super clear picture. But
OJ Mail's out as well.
Yeah, if everybody's still hovering around the 30 minutes a game that we've projected him, we'll know that he's planning on running a deep rotation. But it'll be interesting. Like there's a chance that Greg Monroe plays more minutes than that. And Michael Carter-Williams plays more minutes than that. And then I think they become interesting guys to target in trades.
You know, he's a rookie, and you're not really excited about playing him on his first night. But Rashad Vaughn could get pretty big minutes tomorrow night.
Yeah.
So something to consider. And from New York, Aaron Aflalo's not going to play, so they'll be using Sasha Vujacic at shooting guard. From the San Antonio and Oklahoma City Spurs game, that will be on ESPN at 7 p.m. Hey, is that Eastern or no? That'll be Central. My bad. 8 p.m. Eastern. Anything from San Antonio and Oklahoma City that you want to see there, Marky?
Yeah, I mean, we kind of want to see how LaMarcus Aldridge fits in San Antonio, but I'm not sure that has too much fantasy impact. Crossing my fingers a little bit that Tony Parker isn't done. Like I'm starting to kind of worry that maybe the wheels have fallen off there.
Did you draft him places?
No, I haven't. Just as a basketball fan, I'm kind of looking at that. Oklahoma City, I think, is more interesting. Like, how do they run the rotation? They've got those big guys. Is Steven Adams going to start? Or I think that's what's the plan is. But does Enes Kanter play starters minutes? Do they only run Kanter and Ibaka together? It'll just be interesting to see how they run things. Does Deion Waiters play enough minutes that we have to have him involved in our fantasy lives this year? I don't know. I mean, and the biggest question of all is Kevin Durant back? Like, can he play 36 minutes a game? And what sort of rotation does Billy Donovan play? Like, I think there's a lot of interesting things that are going to come out of that game.
I want to see if the offense looks any different too,
like if they run plays and stuff.
Yes, exactly. But yeah, it'll be interesting all that stuff will be interesting. There was a story about a week ago that was about either Sam Presti or Billy Donovan, but one of the decision makers for the Oklahoma City Thunder. And when they brought up the big three of Ibaka, Durant, and Westbrook, they also threw Steven Adams into that.
I saw that.
Yeah. And then seeing Steven Adams start the preseason games that he was available for and such, I think he's he's the starting center. So,
I have no doubt that he'll be there during tip-off. My question is that a 20-minute-a-night guy? Is that a 30-minute-a-night guy or somewhere in between?
Right, and it'll be interesting to see how inventive they get with the lineups to make more minutes available for Adams and Kanter without getting those two on the court too much together, potentially. It'll be interesting. I took Adams in a couple of my deeper leagues as a flyer, but I don't honestly think he's going to get enough minutes. And I think Kanter will get most of his value in, just points and rebounds. But where that could really help or benefit people is in rotisserie leagues due to his great percentages in both field goal and free throw percentage.
I agree.
All right, moving on. Dallas versus Phoenix. Anything special there? I know that Wesley Matthews is going to be on a minutes limit early. Chandler Parsons, Rick Carlisle said to the media, and I'm going to try and get this quote correct, "I know you want a timetable. You're not getting one."
I love Rick Carlisle. He's great.
Friggin' awesome.
Yeah, I want to see what John Jenkins does. I've been pimping him all preseason. I've been pimping him all off season.
I just don't want Raymond Felton to start at shooting guard.
Yeah.
Just
no,
don't.
I agree. We don't want to have to worry about him either. No, I want to see John Jenkins score like 20 points tonight or tomorrow night.
I want to see what happens with TJ Warren because
Agreed.
I wish they'd just start him. PJ Tucker's done an amazing job carving out a better than average role, on a team, and I don't think he deserves to have his minutes taken away. But TJ Warren was starting to drop dimes in the last couple preseason games too, and that's starting to make him super interesting because if TJ Warren can come out, score for you adequately, get you pretty good rebounds for his position, get you steals, add some assists to that, and get you a couple, a three-pointer here and there, he starts to become super interesting, especially in those rotisserie leagues where he's still available.
Agreed.
Totally.
Like I think TJ Warren is a guy that I've picked up in deep leagues and I'm looking for in shallow leagues, especially because I think there's a chance that Markieff Morris still gets traded at some point, and I think TJ Warren is probably the main beneficiary of that.
Yep. Devin Booker's another guy to keep an eye on. He had a really nice preseason, so it'll be interesting to see if he can get some minutes. And Brandon Knight said that his ankle's still coming back from ankle surgery. It's still not 100%. He's at like 80%. So it's possible that maybe they limit Brandon Knight's minutes.
Is that
earlier.
true? 80% still?
I believe. I don't have the story up in front of me, but
okay.
that's my memory from the last week.
That's like a devastating. And by the way, we should commend Kyle. He's doing he's reading all of these notes from his brain.
Oh, so, well,
but
thanks, man. See, yeah. I got a pretty decent memory.
Yeah, no kidding. I just can't believe that Brandon Knight didn't. Like, that's kind of worrisome if his ankle is still not right.
You know what? Now I feel bad because like I don't have the story in front of me, and I like want to double check it. But anyway, if I'm wrong, leave some mean comments on YouTube about me.
Go drop Brandon Knight, and if it doesn't work out, you can blame Kyle later.
Don't do that. Don't do that. That sounded too serious. Do not drop Brandon Knight. Jeez, oh Pete. Okay. There's a lot of things to look out for Dallas. That'll be a fun box score to talk about in the next couple of days. New Orleans Pelicans versus Portland Trailblazers. Man, what a cool game. Myers Leonard, CJ McCollum. Hopefully Al-Farouq Aminu is ready to play, but he might not be. So Maurice Harkless. Mason Plumlee. How many minutes is he going to get? Because Ed Davis keeps stealing them all during the preseason. You jerk. It'll be fun stuff. The New Orleans Pelicans. They, on Tuesday night, started Nate Robinson, didn't play Drew Holiday. So that means we're going to have Drew Holiday on Wednesday night against Portland. But Drew Holiday's still only going to play 20 minutes. He cannot play on back-to-backs, so they decided to not have him play tonight against Steph Curry. Probably a good idea.
Yep. By the way, Kyle, Steph Curry, he has 22 points in the first quarter.
Dude, the things he was doing this preseason, and I get it, blah, 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 preseason. But he was out there just flipping shots into the hoop from like wherever on the court he was. And it just looked to me like he was angry. Like he still doesn't feel like people believe that he deserved MVP and that they deserved a championship. He looks pissed. And I think we might see a different Steph Curry this year. And
he might have to sign off soon so I can go watch the rest of this game. He's on pace for 88 points.
I was trying to argue he should average that during the projections meeting.
Oh, man, I thought you were an idiot, but it looks like you're going to be right on.
The Los Angeles Clippers versus Sacramento Kings. Darren Collison, we got to see if that's the biggest thing to me. How much of a timeshare is there? Can Darren Collison get enough minutes to be relevant? And will they just finally decide, what the hell are we doing trying to make this Rondo thing work? Let's just go with Darren Collison. He's a lot like Ty Lawson was anyways, so it kind of fits. Like George Karl knows how to use that kind of point guard.
And Lance Stevenson is starting for the Clippers. Is that what I heard?
But it's not going to matter, right?
Yeah, he was. Yeah, no.
He was
even at his peak in Indiana. He wasn't a super valuable fantasy player because he basically only helped you in rebounds and assists. And I don't think he'll have to handle the ball enough to help you that much in assists. But
and he's at his best when he's attacking the rack, that kind of stuff. I don't know. Maybe Chris Paul can figure it out with him. That's the one thing.
Yeah, but the thing is if Stevenson can only do assists and rebounds, and Chris Paul has the ball, then he's not going to do assists very well.
I don't see it working. I'm just trying to,
I really like Lance Stevenson. Like just from a basketball standpoint, I think I'm one of the last people in America that probably is pro Lance Stevenson. I just don't see the fantasy value for him, even in a starting role.
I finally came off the bandwagon yesterday.
Oh man!
Because he tweeted out his own highlights. He tweeted out his own
not a great look. No.
YouTube highlights, and it was like the worst highlight video ever. It had
was the clip of him blowing LeBron's ear on there?
No, it had like all these like the first like 5 minutes were just this music video about like random images that were supposed to personify Lance Stevenson.
Oh no!
And he tweeted out too, like, people say that Lance Stevenson's washed up. Well, check out this highlight video. That was pretty much what his tweet was. Like, bro, are you in middle school? What the hell? Come on, man.
Curry finished with 20. Nobody's going to care about this tomorrow, but Curry finished with 24 in the first quarter.
It's easy money.
That's amazing.
Sacramento, apparently they're not going to start Willie Cauley-Stein now because George Karl said he doesn't want to make Willie Cauley-Stein guard Blake Griffin in his first game.
That's fair.
To start out guard. I don't, son of a biscuit. Now I feel bad because I don't actually have it pulled up who.
I would guess it's Kufus.
Let's just show everybody where we get our player news from. I get my player news from different things on different days, whether it's going to Roto World or going and checking Roto Wire. Both of them have good different pages that you can use to sort all the news and whatnot. I'm going to the Kings, right?
Yep.
So yeah. Anyways, you said you think it's Kufus the doofus?
I think so.
Yeah, Kufus will likely start on Wednesday.
Probably going to start, I think, is the quote.
Oh my gosh, Roto World, thank you. Hasn't decided if Ben McLemore or James Anderson is going to start at shooting guard. Gag me. Ugh. James Anderson was the starting shooting guard of the Sixers last season, right? To begin the season, and then they ended up waiving him because they were like, what are we doing playing this this 33-year-old shooting guard big minutes?
Kyle, are you going to open your messages for us to see?
I didn't realize what I was doing. My bad.
All right, last game, Minnesota and Los Angeles.
I might have to edit that
out. Yeah, if you're listening on the audio version, Kyle just opened up his direct messages on Twitter, so you can go check out the YouTube video and see who's been talking to Kyle.
Hey, man. That's where I keep all my side chicks.
Yeah, I'm trying to get our ratings high. We can.
I love that you started to break up. It sounded like I was kind of distorting you. What? No, sorry. Can't hear any of that. But yeah.
Minnesota.
Yeah, Timberwolves versus the Lakers. D'Angelo Russell, they said that they're not sure. Byron Scott said he's not sure who he's going to start at point guard in the game. Everybody else is a lock. Julius Randle is a lock to start at power forward. Kobe's a lock. Jordan Clarkson's a lock. Roy Hibbert's a lock. But he's not sure if he's going to start D'Angelo Russell at point guard.
What's that 33-year-old guy at point guard? He should be fired.
Marcelo Huertas.
And nothing against Marcelo. I am kind of interested to see how he plays, and he's probably a good player, but by the time that you're good, Marcelo will be retired. So I don't want to hear Byron Scott come out, Byron Scott, and tell us he's going to wait till he's mathematically eliminated from the playoffs before he plays D'Angelo Russell. Didn't he do something like that last year? He was waiting until they were mathematically eliminated to change his lineup. Which just feels like you've got your team on this countdown, and we're not mathematically eliminated yet. Let's keep counting down the days.
There is a bunch of weird stuff, the whole we're not going to shoot any 3-pointers, and well, I'm going to have this rotation for 20 games, and then I'm going to have this rotation for 20 games, and it's it's the same rotation,
tanking, right? They're just tanking, I think, unintentionally by having by having Scott as their coach.
It's possible he's looking at the situation if we're not being complete jerks about it, it's possible he's looking at it and he's saying look, Jordan Clarkson needs his touches. Kobe's going to take whatever touches he wants. So if I want to get D'Angelo Russell more touches, I probably need to put him with the second unit. It's just sad that Kobe's that narcissistic that would have to be the case.
Yeah. I want to see what Karl Anthony Towns does, though.
Yeah, Cat's going to be awesome to watch. He was that dude looked so good. I mean, I was taking him in I think the fourth or fifth round of some drafts when it finally got down to it. I think the fifth round, and I didn't feel bad about that at all. I don't blame you. I think he'll be great. So, and then we'll of course want to see what happens there at small forward, whether or not they actually do start Wiggins at shooting guard and Tayshaun Prince at small forward. And then we're going to want to see what Belita does off the bench, what Gorgie Jang does off the bench, and then see how many minutes Zach LaVine maybe gets. And as well, I'm keeping a close eye on what's going on with Ricky Rubio's minutes too, because Rubio looked great in the final preseason game, but I just don't know that they're not going to look to get Tyus Jones some minutes. And if they got to get Zach LaVine some minutes, that might have to come at point guard too. It's just a unique situation. We'll see what happens there. All right, Mark, I don't have anything else. You got anything else, brother?
No, man. I think we're good.
Tight money. Thank you for listening to the Daily Fantasy Basketball Podcast from dailyfantasybasketballpodcast.com. I'm Kyle McEwen. You can find me on Twitter at RotoKyleNBA. And this is...
Hey, this is Mark Roberts, and you can find me on Twitter at Mark F. Roberts. Mark is with a C, just like Mr. Marc Gasol.
If you would like to donate to us, you can do that at the website. Otherwise, please rate and review the podcast on iTunes, Stitcher, TuneIn, all that jazz. And, yeah, thanks a lot, guys.
Basketball's back, man.
Hell yeah,
Basketball's
man.
back.
Hooty-hoo!
Kendrick Perkins has 8 points in 7 minutes.
Pick him up!
There's Kyle's direct messages again.